Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Good morning and welcome to lecture 6 of the course Introduction to Interaction Design. In the last lecture, we were looking at conceptual design and how it is important for the design process. We also saw the research questions, how we can effectively frame research questions, and then where the conceptual design fits in the overall scheme of the design field. So today we will continue with conceptual design, and we will look at the interaction types. One way of looking at how to conceptualize the design space is to look at the interaction types that will define the user experience. So these are basically ways in which the user will interact with the product or the application. So for example, when Amazon suggests an item based on the user past purchase behavior, or when, for example, Netflix pauses a person's viewing to ask them whether they would like to continue watching or not. So these are examples of how people are interacting with, how the designers are conceptualizing that how will people interact with their platforms. So the one way of doing it is instructing. So where the users issue instructions to a system, and this is done in several ways, by typing commands or by selecting from the menu or by multi-touch screens. Even voice commands can be given, or gesturing or pressing the buttons. So these are several ways, and which particular style will be best suited, which particular application or interaction style will be best suited, that the designer has to take a call on. We also saw in the previous lecture about accessibility and inclusiveness. So how we can also incorporate those features, and which of these will help in the effective instructing by the user. The other way to do is by conversing, and wherein there is a conversation, the user is conversing with the HCI and there is a dialogue with the system. So now the user can speak through the interface where they can type the question, and the system will reply back either in text or speech. So this is how the users also converse, and now the systems are getting so smart, especially with the introduction of AI, that artificial intelligence, that the system understands and knows the needs and requirements and answers like, almost like a person who is conversing. Another way is manipulating, where the users interact with objects in a virtual or a physical space by manipulating them. So for example, opening, holding, closing, placing, all these kind of activities, and users can improve their knowledge of how to interact with the objects. So on our mobile phone, for example, when we want to club, the screen is all filled up, and we want to combine similar activities, we hold them and place them in a folder. So how the user is getting that flexibility to manipulate the interface that he is interacting with. Another is exploring, where the users are moving through a virtual environment, or maybe it could be a physical space. And virtual environments include 3D worlds, augmented virtual reality, which are really being used in a lot of different ways here to understand user, to help user get the feel of the space. It is used in, for pilots, for soldiers. They have many applications where without being there, the person can actually learn the technique. So When it comes to physical spaces, then we can use sensor based technologies that include smart rooms and ambient environments, and these enable people to capitalize on familiarity. Responding is where the system initiates the interaction and the user chooses whether to respond or not. Now, for example, these mobile location based technology, so it speaks to the user whether or not he asks for the information. So it will tell in 200 meters take a right turn, take a left turn. So it is just responding to the user. Uh, there are several of these products that designers are working on, including these assistive robots, especially for people with special needs or for elderly people, wherein who probably don't have company, and how these robots, which are AI enabled, they converse with the elderly person or the lonely person, and they almost feel like they're talking to a friend. So how can this technology be applied? How can we apply these kind of interactions where people can benefit from them? So conceptual design has certain terms like paradigms, vision, theory, models, and frameworks. So these are basically uh, solid theories or concepts which help designers make informed decision, and so that they can create meaningful experiences and effectively address the needs and wants of the users. So paradigm refers to a general approach that has been adopted by a community of researchers and designers for carrying out their work in terms of shared assumptions, concepts, values, and practices. So, now, for example, currently the paradigm in interaction design is referred to as user centered design. So, wherein all the designers, most of the designers are focusing on the user, that what are the requirements and needs of the user. So, here in this paradigm, the needs and goals of the user are the most important over anything else. And also that the design solution should be evaluated based on their ability to meet user needs and improve their user experience. Other such examples are big data. So there's a lot of data nowadays coming from many different sources. So how do we collate it? How do we analyze it? So that is another example, and also Internet of Things. So there are many different such paradigms uh, depending on the the time and place where we are. So vision basically is, we always associate the term vision with future. So this is again provides a powerful driving force that can lead to a paradigm shift in terms of what research and development is carried out in companies and universities. So a number of companies conduct these studies, that what is the vision, what is their vision, and what in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, how do they see the future, themselves in the future, or the world in the future. For example, social equality is one such vision that people see we may achieve in the next few decades, or world peace may be achieved. So these are some examples of vision. Another example from the technical side or design side is when Apple in 1987 created this vision, wherein there was a scenario where a professor was using a touchscreen tablet with a speech based intelligent assistant, reminding him of what he needed to do that day while he was answering the phone and helping him prepare his lectures. So you can see that how in 1987 this vision was of Apple, which now is a reality. Or even we can take example of the mobile phone, that how people at one time visualized, or they thought that it would be there would be a time when we will be able to talk to somebody as if we're talking face to face. And now we have all these features in the phone wherein we can talk with people who are even 7 seas apart, or different time zones. And similarly, there can be another vision that maybe through the TV screen, while watching a cookery show, probably we'll be able to also smell the food. So that is again another kind of a vision, and that may or may not come true depending on our technology advancement. So another current vision that is very popular nowadays is artificial intelligence. It is there's a lot of debate going on in the area of artificial intelligence. While some say it is very good for the future and it makes our lives easier, the other group says the opposite, that it will take away their jobs and make life very difficult. So, a lot of people are interested in this debate, including journalists and social commentators, policymakers, and even common people like us. So, the AI is now replacing the user interface for an increasing number of applications, where earlier the user had to make choice. So, while listening to music, I would probably choose my favorite songs. But now AI, artificial intelligence, knows that what are my preferences, and it will play those songs. So now it is at a level where it can understand my behavior. Even from my tone, it can guess whether I'm in a good mood or in a bad mood. Just like other humans do, that we see the gestures, body language, voice tone, all of these things inform us about the person's mental state. Same is the level that AI is achieving, and will soon will be almost human like. In the past few decades, there have been many theories in the area of human computer interactions, which provide means to analyze and predict the performance of users carrying out tasks for specific type of computer interfaces and systems. So mainly we have explored areas where cognition is involved, or the social networking of people is involved. And in the area of cognitive science, lot of work has been done, and scientists, designers have tried to determine that what is the best way for working on tasks or representing task operations, because we know that human brain has certain limitations. So it can store only so much information, or can handle only for example 10 phone numbers. And nowadays with mobiles, which everybody has, we are not in the habit of remembering phone numbers. Earlier we could remember many phone numbers when we were younger, but now maybe just 2 or 3 phone numbers. So how the brain is also, anyway it has its limitations, and so how can these tasks be organized so that the user is able to maneuver through them in the best possible manner. And one of the main benefits of applying such theories in interaction design is to help identify factors like cognitive, social, and others relevant to the design and evaluation of interactive products. So, using these theories, we can analyze and see whether the output is effective, or we need to check some other theory. Now, models are visual representative of the idea. So it depicts how the core features and processes underlying a phenomena are structured and related to one another. So, for example, Don Norman developed a number of models of user interaction based on theories of cognitive processes, which is a branch of cognitive science, and they were intended to explain the way users interacted with interactive technologies. So, these included 7 stages of action model that describes how users move from their plans to executing physical actions that they need to perform to achieve them, to evaluate the outcome of their actions with respect to the goal. So we can see here in this diagram that how they perceive, they interpret, they evaluate to move towards the goal, and how the intention action is helping them execute the task. So the 7 stages of action that Don Norman has suggested. Now, in contrast to a model, the framework offers advice to designers as to what to design and look for. So, framework is, having the solution based, where variety of steps may be there, or concepts may be there, some principles may be there, and they have traditionally been based on theories of human behavior, but they are now being developed from experiences of actual design practices, and the findings are coming from the user studies. So, this framework comprises mainly of 3 elements. So, the first is the designer's model, so which is that as per the designer, how the system should ideally work. The next is the system model, that how the system actually works. So, how it actually works is portrayed to the user through the interface, through the manuals and other help facilities like chat or other things. And third is the user's model, that how the user understands how the system works. Now, this is an example of generating a framework for healthcare innovation. So, innovation is something which wherein we come up with a fresh new idea. It is something which is not existing currently. So, now here it is broken into 3 steps. So, the framework is divided such that it is a pre-design, co-design and post-design. So, in the pre-design stage, the step 1 is contextual inquiry, wherein some field work will be conducted, some observations will be made, or interviews will be conducted to understand that what is the need. So, as you see that the need is always the first step, and for that purpose, for the first step, contextual inquiry, we have to go on to the ground and understand. The second is the preparation and training. Now, depending on what kind of innovation we are coming up with, so the participant selection, whatever material we may require, that material and any technology that we may be trying to apply, applied science or any other field. So, that we will be preparing and training. For example, if we are using some AI models, then we will have to prepare those AI models or CNN neural networks or whatever the demand may be. So, we have to prepare some algorithms. So, that will come in this step number 2. In the co-design stage, where the third step is, now we will frame the issue, that what was the problem, what are the experiences, the pain points, and what needs to change. So, that will come, and which will also be the vision. So, like we discussed earlier, that how do they see the particular group of people or participants benefit from this particular innovation, and so that it can have a wider acceptability. Although the sample size or sample study area may be small, but then it should have a maybe a global reach. The next step here is generative design, where the latent needs and challenges that are experienced and future state creation. So, latent needs are the needs that people are not aware of until and unless a certain feature does not exist. So, So it is like an invisible need, like we saw in the earlier lectures, where uh, Don Norman said that the solution should be invisible. That is a good design. So invisible is, so latent needs are also invisible. People generally do not even realize that they need them, but in their absence they feel some problem. So what are those needs and other needs that need to be looked into and catered to? The next step is sharing ideas. So here, a presentation of the design work is conducted. Maybe uh, some inquiry is conducted into uh, the ideas that are being shared. And in the post design, so the core design is where, the as per this framework, where a lot of people are working together, coming up with ideas, visions, and needs. And in the post design, once the design stage is over, then the data is analyzed. Maybe they are going to compare the before with the after. The reporting of the findings will be made, and finally the requirements translation. So what are the feasible priorities, what are the steps that have to be taken, and what will be the final shape of this technology. And of course the user testing and feasibility, all those things will be taken into account, and this step will then close the loop, and this loop may again begin. So this is just an example of how this framework is used. So all these terms that we saw today, which are paradigms, visions, theories, models, frameworks, so they somewhere or the other they overlap. So they are not, in their individual silos, but they may have some overlapping areas in which, in the way of conceptualizing the problem and the design space, and also their purpose. So, with this, we come to the end of today's lecture, and I will see you in the next lecture with where we will look at some cognitive aspects of the users, and how, like we saw today, the theories, and we saw an example of the cognitive theory, that how people have, limitations when it comes to cognition. So we will explore cognition a little bit further, and we'll see that how can we incorporate that in the interaction design process, keeping in mind the strengths and limitations of the cognition. So thank you.